on the behalf of the families, I do have to give some pushback because I am part of that community as well. When I go to a game, it's me and it's all my kids. It's always going to cost me over $120. And that's hard for a high school game, especially when, like, if you're at St. Peter's, this is probably their third Zone 6 game, right? So, like, for them, that's a costly thing, right? Because it's not just me. Like, for me, I'm like, all right, cool, it's $25, $30, whatever. But when it's me and 4 kids, right, that's a lot of money for a high school game. And there has to be some type of play there.
So as far as what we do, and shout out to one of our sponsors, McDonald's, each year that we do the Zone 6 Classic, we have the Zone 6 meal, which comes out to be $5.99. We do it for a 2-hour event where you get the meal and you get a Zone 6 ticket to the Classic for free, and it's the ticket to any Zone 6 game that you want to go to.
What is this? Talk about. I don't.
So each summer, before the season starts, we go to Patterson Broadway McDonald's, right? And they let us do a Zone 6 meal. This is our 3rd season doing the meal. Now we go there for 2 hours. Our staff, we actually work in the McDonald's. We give out tickets. We give out the meals. But let's say family of 4, right? The meal is $6. You're now paying $24 plus tax, right? And then you get 4 tickets that come with that meal as well.
You need to know that's bulletin board material in every locker room.
And if you feel any way, please charge it to my brain and not my heart.
Of course, everyone wants that Notre Dame job. Everyone wants to be on NBC in prime time every week of guaranteed games.
When you make decisions going into your high school or transferring from your high school, those are big decisions that will affect the rest of your life.
This episode of Keep It a Buck is brought to you by Ignite Performance Lab, located on Route 4, West Paramus. The easy part of the schedule is over. Like we said, everybody was out eating the cookies and cake. Now it was time to get to the vegetables. And as far as Keep It a Buck is concerned, when we picked our teams for last week, I don't think we ever had as bad a week as we had this time around.
Never.
A lot of upsets. In our opinion, right? But I'm sure in those locker rooms, there was no upset. They couldn't wait to let the state know what they already knew in those locker rooms. Shout out to Don Bosco Prep as the #1 team in the state. Shout out to St. Peter's Prep, who filled the #2 team in the state. The comments have already started coming in. I know a lot of people don't agree with us on that. We'll explain how we came to that conclusion, right? You don't got to agree with us, but you will know our method, right? How we came up with what we came up with. But so we back into the thick of things, right? So we had the first slate of tests in North Jersey, which featured Game of the Week, Don Bosco versus Bergen. Justin, you saved the day with that. For real, you saved the day. For all of us that paid the Super Conference to watch the game and they had exclusive rights, which I don't have a problem with. But if you're going to have exclusive rights, then you have an obligation to the people to make sure you come through on that, because we don't have nowhere else to go after that, And I just feel like this has been a problem since the first game of the season on the Super Conference, where we watched St. Peter's and Paramus Catholic, where I think maybe the servers on Huddle just can't hold the attention that the private schools get in these games, because it's not just local. A lot of these private school games have national implications, so you have other people around the country that's part of forums that try to tap into these games, and I think that's why it keeps freezing, and that's cool. But for the schools that's locking in with this, we need another outlet. It's unfair that I had to try to decipher who's who and what's what through some good people on the sideline going live, but we can't keep up with that, man. We can't keep doing that,
Especially when it's a game that's sold out. Like before the game, they weren't even selling tickets at the game, so now you're relying on whatever network. Right. So but shout out to all 1,400 something people that tuned in during the second half of the IG Live. We'll get to the game in a few.
Yeah, we'll talk about that shortly.
Yeah, 1,400. And that's just 1,400 that knew, right? So
yeah, at some point, people come on and off, but at the end, it said 1,400. I think the most that we had at one point was like 460 some people at one time. That backstretch, last 5 minutes of the game.
So Justin was able to make it out to that. For myself, I was able to make it out to St. Peter's and Joe's, my first time in Jersey City for a football game. Probably my last time as well. Shout out to my people at St. Peter's. It's like a bittersweet thing because I love some of the St. Peter's crowd, right? I really do, and I love the way they tailgate and all that. But I guess you call it what it is. I'm a little bougie, you know what I'm saying? So my brother Keith came out there. He had the grits,
shrimp,
he had the fish,
shrimp.
So he threw it down. French toast or whatever.
Red velvet cake was out there.
So after the game, so we ate before the game, and Zone 6 said no re-entry. I don't know why they said that, so I couldn't even come out on halftime. So after the game, we go out, and we eating, and it's just at that point I'm noticing, I'm like, God damn, all this damn smog blowing in my face, man. All this dirt in my mouth. I'm like, I got to get the hell out of here. Like, this is not how I party. So I just leave. So Keith Miles calls me after the game. Was like, your peoples didn't raise you well, so I'm supposed to go to. He's like, you ain't say bye to nobody or nothing. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of people over there. And to be real with you, I was kind of ticked off being in the parking lot full of gravel and all the dust and the dirt was blowing around on the food. And he was like, yeah, but you didn't have that problem till after you ate my food. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. So my apologies to the St. Peter's crowd. Y'all caught me. I ate the food and I ran, But it was a good game. But yeah, let's go, Catrice.
All right. So let's start. We'll get to the games as we get down to those on the list. But we'll start at number 10 with Rancocas Valley versus Camden. Rancocas Valley has lost to Camden, so we took a L on that one too because we all picked.
Had a bad week.
Yeah, we all picked Rancocas Valley. In the comments, some people are saying that Rancocas Valley was going to take care of Camden. They was talking real slick. We need some Camden people to go answer to Rancocas Valley people because that was so wrong.
Well, one of the themes I'm noticing this week was about defense. And that game was
That was I think 12-8 game maybe, if I'm not mistaken.
6-8.
6-8. Mm-hmm. Sorry, 6-8. Mm-hmm. And speaking of defense, Talib Shakir, 12 tackles, 1 forced fumble. In that game. So anytime anyone can get double-digit tackles in a big-time game, I guess upsetting our number 10 team on our list. Shout out to you, Talib, for incredible performance.
Mm-hmm. All right. So then moving right along to number 9. Ramapo versus Montclair, 47-0. Okay, I guess there's that. Okay, grand open, grand closing. Number 8, Glassboro, versus Woodbury, 52-13. So, okay, we were right there. Winslow versus Millville, 49-6.
Yeah, Millville, I guess, is in a rebuild. It's just one of those things where sometimes you're fortunate to go on a nice spurt and, have multiple winning seasons. And then it's like, all right, you got to grow again. You got to mature again and let those kids, I guess they're thrown in the fire, whether freshmen, sophomores, whatever. Mm-hmm. But, hopefully we see, a different Millville next season.
Okay. All right. St. Augustine played Mainland Regional. 17-7 was the score in that game. And then we move right along to what was our number 5, St. Peter's Prep versus St. Joe's Regional. So you talked about the gravel and the tailgate, and let's talk about the game. Well, this was our Zone 6 Classic.
Zone 6 Classic, mm-hmm. And I will say this about the Classic. The Classic is not your average experience. Mm-hmm. So when, you show up to the game, it's not going to be your traditional high school game, all right? Also, when we go to someone's home field, meaning Cave and Point for St. Peter's Prep, everything is really catered as a prep home game. Mm-hmm. Now, I would say 8 or 9 out of 10 times, we're usually at a neutral site where we could give both fan base the same experience where everything is neutral. Mm-hmm. So, as far as the game itself, all right, the speakers were blasting, all right, we had the Jumbotron up. I would say St. Joe's had at the time it just worked out that way. They had an incredible entrance where we had a violinist play Put On by Young Jeezy, mm-hmm. right? And then the DJ cued in the actual song after she started off, and I was like, whoa, okay. Nice. And then Peters came out. The atmosphere, It was electric as far as for us from a production standpoint where we wanted to challenge ourselves to do something different. And I think we definitely gave a good home field type of experience for the St. Peter's crowd. And St. Joe's would get that same love and next Saturday when we host them versus Don Bosco Prep. And it's no different than when we hosted St. Joe's last year versus Bergen Catholic. So when we go to your home field, it shouldn't feel neutral. You're the home team.
Right.
But as far as the game itself, it was electric. 42 points at halftime. But
definitely not what I was expecting. But just before we get into the game, I definitely wanted to talk about the Classic and the way you guys approach the home team, because I don't think like people from the opposing team in the crowd understand that when Zone 6 does one of their Classic games, whoever the home team is pretty much who you guys are there for. So like I think that maybe some of the crowd felt the way about Zone 6 rallying up St. Peter's. This was a St. Peter's home game.
Absolutely.
And Zone 6 was there as guest of St. Peter's.
Exactly.
And as Justin said, if they were guests of Bosco, then they rally Bosco up. If they were guests, whoever the home team is, that's who they're there for. Also, and I've heard this in the past, and I think and I've seen some comments on the page where, parents have said like, oh, stop being so selfish. We couldn't hear ourselves think or whatever over the music. Oh. This is about the kids. And what I want to say to that is, well, I think that is Zone 6 being unselfish, because Justin is clearly not a kid as a Zone 6 member. And this is what the kids relate to. It's not for baby boomers. So if you're a baby boomer out there, you probably are going to be having a miserable time with the type of music the kids listen to today, right? Like when I grew up, like we didn't do the mumble rap, the drill, all of that disturbs me too, right? And I'm far from a baby boomer, but I understand whose community I'm in when I'm there, right? That's all of the kids.
And we actually played, we actually mixed it up. We played, stuff that the kids like. We also played, I would say about 20% of our playlist was probably rock and roll as well. And like you said, it's not for the baby boomers, but when you get to the next level, you're not going to be able to hear yourself in some of those stadiums, especially, if you get to be a part of a Penn State whiteout game, right. Or you go to the big house, or you go to an NFL game.
Bosco and Bergen this week.
Exactly. So as far as, saying, it's loud and everything, it's a setting that you want to be in. You should, appreciate that if we're actually coming to your game to do so.
Yeah.
And then one of the things is about the Zone 6 Classic, the ticket price is different. Well, I do want to say this on record as far as with the high school football classic in the 5 years that we've hosted, where we have done payouts to programs of over $65,000, right? And that doesn't include this season because the books are not closed. So I'm not even counting this year of what we've been able to contribute to the program. So it's a win for the programs as well. They're just not bringing us just say, hey, Zone 6, just come on in and do what you do and charge people. No, Zone 6, hey, what do you have on the table for us that's beneficial to our program for us to grow, whether it's to have something new in your weight room next year, if it's something as far as new uniforms, beefsteak dinners, whatever at the end of the year. We want to help programs out and give them a next level experience at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a production. I think Zone 6 Classics are the closest thing to a college atmosphere. And I was waiting for you to finish to basically say that. Like when you go to the college games, it's the same way. Like they play the same music because that's what's to date right now. They have a mix up, and you said violinists and Jeezy's put on, and that's not even
I'm walking
era.
After the fact, I'm walking into MetLife Stadium the next day. Outside the stadium, I can hear Young Dolph from outside the stadium. So I'm looking like we not doing anything.
And no one would label that as ghetto at the Giants game or at Rutgers game. And to me, there's undertone in that, because why is it ghetto at a Zone 6 Classic? What exactly is ghetto, right? Because again, you guys are actually taking the blueprint from NFL and college games. And I've yet to hear anybody call an NFL game or a college game ghetto.
But then you look at it from a statistic standpoint, I believe 80% let's say from NFL roster is African American. They're gonna cater the music towards their players that they're spending a lot of money on. It's a business, right? They want them in the right mindset, and they're gonna play the music that's gonna get their players to perform well. So and that goes from the college level as well. It's not the same percentages, but it's a blueprint that colleges are following from the NFL as well from a production standpoint.
What on the behalf of the families, I do have to give some pushback because I am part of that community as well. When I go to a game, it's me and it's all my kids. So if I wanted to attend the Zone 6 Classic game, it's always going to cost me over $120. And that's hard for a high school game, especially when, like, if you're at St. Peter's, this is probably their third Zone 6 game, right? I don't know. It was Union City one.
So we had Union City, and then
St. Joe's,
and St. Joe's, and then we had one more, which was Shabazz.
So like for them, that's a costly thing, right? Because it's not just me. Like for me, I'm like, all right, cool, it's $25, $30, whatever. But when it's me and 4 kids, right? That's a lot of money for a high school game. And there has to be some type of play there.
So as far as what we do, and shout out to one of our sponsors, McDonald's, each year that we do the Zone 6 Classic, we have the Zone 6 meal, which comes out to be $5.99. We do it for a 2-hour event where you get the meal and you get a Zone 6 ticket to the Classic for free, and it's the ticket to any Zone 6 game that you want to go to.
What is this? Talk about I don't.
So each summer, before the season starts, we go to Patterson Broadway McDonald's, right? And they let us do a Zone 6 meal. This is our 3rd season doing the meal. Now we go there for 2 hours. Our staff, we actually work in the McDonald's. We give out tickets. We give out the meals. But let's say family of 4, right? The meal is $6. You're now paying $24 plus tax, right? And then you get 4 tickets that come with that meal as well. So that's one of the things that we try to do. And
could we get a healthier option? Because I'll never walk in McDonald's. I'm just being real. Like if I'm in McDonald's, I'm in there to get a Zone 6 ticket.
We actually have some people that say, hey, we'll donate a meal to someone else that might want a meal right here and pay it forward. Okay. We just want the tickets. So but we're gonna find other creative ways to give opportunities to the communities to get tickets, and that's why it's important to have sponsors and different people on board so we could do some of the things that we do. So also our ticket price goes into the type of production that we put on, that which costs us. But one of the things from this past weekend, a student from St. Peter's Prep won $300.
I started to do that 30-yard field. I'm like, I can kick that field goal. Oh God, when you was like, I'm like, I can kick that.
And it's something that we got from college. You see Pat McAfee 10 o'clock in the morning. They're giving out $150,000. We ain't got that. So anybody that want to sponsor that type of thing, we're all for it. But I want to call on my staff. Like, y'all set me up for failure. Y'all chose a soccer player. Money was going before the kick. So, but shout out to the kid, for winning the $300. But we're going to continue to grow the Classic and try to find different ways to make it affordable for everyone, especially when you talk about family force. So that's a great point, and I appreciate the feedback for sure.
It is an experience. There's things for your kids to do other than, especially if they don't watch football when they come.
Oh yeah, because when you last year, I think you came to your first Classic, right? We had the fireworks. Yeah. When you score a touchdown, there's not going to be many games that you go to and we was doing, like you said, neutral. We was doing it for both teams when they score. So depending on what type of game it is, we always try to do something fun. We went viral with the water gun thing with Christian Cruz. So we're trying to give you bang for your buck too. We're not just trying to get you to come into the game, or we're trying to give you 2 or 3 games.
It's a growing organism, and I would say if you have suggestions and things like that, you can leave that in the comments.
Please
right?
do.
So please suggestions.
Definitely.
Yep. All right. Well, let's talk about the game.
Okay. So the game was not what I expected at all. Although I knew that Lamar Best and Nate Bailey wouldn't be playing, I still chose Joe's. And I thought Joe's would win that game on defense. I expected the offense to struggle, but I expected the defense to play lights out and Joe's to be opportunistic in regards to 3 yards in a cloud of dust, then let your field goal kick a kick, You know, I didn't expect St. Peter's to have a field goal kicker. So I was expecting like that type of grinded out win. And the game went totally opposite whatever I expected. Both offense came out striking back to back, right? For a minute, it just looked like neither one could stop either one.
That was going to be a shootout.
And I'm saying, well, what happened? Where's the defense? Where's the, like, where y'all left it? Y'all left them in Montville somewhere? They need a ride? Like, what's going on? And then, courtesy of Zone 6 no reentry, I didn't go out during halftime. I'm like, I want to hear what's going on Joe's sideline with the defense. So I listened and I watched the adjustments made. And I guess St. Peter's went in the locker room and they made some adjustments too. And we came back out to the game looking exactly like I expected it to look. Both offenses shut down, stifled, and the defenses took over. And the second half, the score was 8-7, St. Peter's. And that's the type of game I expected all the way through. Now, when I say St. Peter's actually did everything I expected Joe's to do. Like, so for example, field goals, I'm never worrying about St. Peter's kicking field. If they line up a field goal, I'm like, all right, but make sure you know where the tight end is at. Make sure you know where this guy's going in motion because they're not kicking it. They kicked the 30-yard field goal and actually made it, but the ref waved it off and gave them a first down that led to the first touchdown. And I'm like, that's different. Then they came out and established the line of scrimmage. Like, they came out and they were the more physical team. They were running and they were getting chunk yardage. And they looked like what I expected Joe's to look like. Like, they had the 30-yard field goal. They established the line of scrimmage, you know. And
I was surprised they didn't try the field goal attempt on the turnover and downs in the second half. When I think they ran like the bubble route. They had a turnover downs. I was surprised that they didn't kick the field goal.
Were they in range?
They were in range, but it was a 4th and 2, 4th and 3 situation, right? And then it was.
So let's stick with 4th and 2, 4th and 3.
Yeah.
That was another thing. It was clear St. Peter's wanted that game more, because, like you said, Rich and them, they was
aggressive.
They was aggressive.
Yep.
The whole way through, like they was aggressive. Like, back to the thing I said in the first show. If we lose this game, I'm gonna let the kids have it on it. The kids is not gonna be able to look at us and say we didn't trust you and say, like, down to the last possession.
Yep.
They score, they're down 1. They don't get that 2-point conversion, game is over.
Yeah.
They went for the 2-point conversion. And that's it right there. They lose that game, those kids look at themselves and they say, I missed my block, I didn't do whatever. But the coaches said, I believed in you. And that's huge to me.
Well, as far as St. Peter's Prep, you know, this is the first time they're being 5-0, starting the season 5-0 since 2012. And I know we talked about it earlier in the year with Coach Vito for going for 2, right? Now we're seeing some teams having that success or having that trust in their team that, hey, at the end of the game, if we can't get 2 or 3 yards, we gave you the opportunity as far as the kids. Of course, a good play call needs to go along with that, but shout out to Abdul-Toure, you know, on the conversion, because the kid was so close on that tackle, on that exchange of the jet sweep, and that was the one person that he's responsible to make miss, and he made a miss.
Nice. Well, we knew it would be a good game. I knew it would be. How was the atmosphere?
St. Peter's Prep parents were supporting their kids. They were loud, they were standing up, they were cheering. It just meant more to that community. You're looking at St. Joe's and all them sitting down, looking like baby boomers. As a parent, what are you doing there if you're not cheering for your kid?
I mean, some people, I don't know.
Yeah, I did give from one.
Some people are more, you know, reserved. You could hear me on 1 and 9 if I was at Camden. But, you know, a lot of parents are not like that. So
yeah, they said some of the parents were getting. This is one of Joe's parents that I know. She was like, we put on a good event. Some of the parents were getting mad, but that's because we weren't playing well. So they just be mad in general.
You can't only cheer when your team is winning. That's the thing. You have to motivate them. Like, you can't just, it's like, oh, good job. No, sometimes you have to push them along the way. That's how the momentum gets going. I think
they probably thought it was going to be easy. Like you said.
I think that the parents thought so, and I think the kids thought, like, you looked at, like, I got a text during the game from one parent. He was like, they look flat as hell. Well, they about to get flattened. Yeah, they about to get flattened. I think, like, I think they realized at some point, like, oh, they trying to humiliate us. Like St. Peter's was meant business.
I said that last.
I don't think they realized that till like
I literally said
third quarter, like maybe like
it's
7-8 minute mark, like halftime. Like, all right, coach, Augie got to give them the speech, and they got to come out, and we're gonna put up two, three touchdowns and shut them out in the second half. Like maybe like a prep team that you've seen in the past, like coming out flat, but. I'm pretty sure.
I want to say that I said that last week, and I didn't specify which one, but I think it was Zion and Kenyon that year with them. Like, they're winning all along, and right at the last minute or whatever, Peters wins. It happens almost 3 out of the 4 years, maybe. All along, every time. Yeah. So you can't take for granted that, we're going to win. No, why? We actually don't even have a record of winning the first game.
Yeah, I actually want to give a shout out to the defensive end from St. Peter's on the last drive for Joe. St. Peter's scored, they went for 2. Joe's is on offense and they're going the right side defensive end. He shoots in. The offensive tackle for St. Joe's, number 66, gets his hands on him and pushes him. Mm-hmm. But his motor never stopped. So he pushes him, and the other tackle for Joe's is being lazy, if we're being honest. He was lazy. You're supposed to ride him all the way out. That kid came back around and made the game-winning strip sack, and he deserves all the credit in the world for that because a lot of kids would have got pushed out the play and just stopped. He never stopped. And I talk about that with a few friends of mine that having a high motor is a skill today because most people are lazy. Mm-hmm. So if you just keep coming, you will make plays that's not based on skill or nothing else, just the fact that you have a motor. Al-Qadim Muhammad is in the NFL right now making a living off of that type of stuff.
Off of having a motor.
Having a motor.
It's that will.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's that will for sure.
All right, well, congratulations to St. Peter's. And next is DePaul versus PC. The score was 26-14. DePaul took the win on that one.
It was 14-14 going into the fourth, though.
Oh. And it was 14-6 going into the half.
Okay.
PC.
PC was up 14-6?
Yeah.
Okay.
14-6 going into the half. And it's, at that point, I just think that PC doesn't know how to win yet, meaning like you don't get paid at halftime. Mm-hmm. I think that they took that lightly. And for DePaul, a lot like St. Peter's, it meant more to them. And the second half, DePaul won that game, I think 20-6, 20-8 in the second half. And the rest is history. I know his name Logan Nagel had a big game, right?
No, Logan had a huge game, and he had 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 11 tackles, and 1 forced fumble.
So that's what we've seen in both games, right? Because the interesting stat, like we said, the second half for Joe's was all quiet defensive game, and then when the game was on the line, Hunter Watson showed up on a deep ball, head tap catch, to put his team in position for the go-ahead score, for the 2-point, right?
Absolutely.
But the crazy stat with that is Hunter has how many catches this year?
He has
16?
He has 16 catches.
And how many touchdowns?
8 touchdowns.
So half of the catches account for touchdowns, and
and he actually had in 6, but as far as those catches, he has 6 of those catches this season out of his 18. It was all versus St. Joe's this weekend because he was 6 for 87. So even people were like, oh, he probably was doing that versus whoever. No, a third of his catches actually it was this past weekend.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we spoke about Joe's and Peters. So now to our number 1 and number 2, our other game of the week.
Can we bring it back real quick though? Because I don't want to short St. Peter's on their giving them their just due. Tyre Clark, I believe his name is.
Yes.
The safety, huge play going into the half. Joe's got a turnover on downs, got the ball, and began marching immediately. And I don't know who drew it up, but they had all their receivers in one area and threw to a spot in that area. And Tyre Clark went and snatched that.
He went up there.
That was huge because what we saw in the second half was it was all defensive game. So just Joe scoring right there in that situation might have been ball game. So shout out to Tyre Clark. Big play for his team. Big play.
And he continues to make plays for his team because he had the big pick 6 last week, in the Del Barton game.
Oh, and then he also had the heads up play on the punt. He called for a fair catch.
Yep.
And you know how the players stop, like you guys are around me. So he called for the fair catch and he stopped. And he threw himself into one of the Joe's players. And actually was able, so after he did that, which was a smart play, one of the St. Peter's kids came over by the ball and it touched him. And the Joes recovered it, which would have been like on St. Peter's 15, 20-yard line. Joes would have been going in. The ref had to wave that off because he called interfering with the receiver. And not only did St. Peter's get the ball back, but they got 15 yards on that. And that's that same kid just being heady. I mean, they say prep is, for the smart kids. So I guess he's just one of them smart athletes. It was a hell of a play.
IQ. All right. So now, drum roll. Moving on to our number 1 and number 2 team, Bosco and Bergen. That was hosted at Bosco. The crowd was packed. Like just
early,
from watching.
Hour and a half.
Oh,
I had to get there early. I got there probably around like 5:20.
I had a coworker. That was her first time ever attending a New Jersey high school football game.
Oh, that's a good one to go to.
Yeah, and like for your first one ever, it's like she was just like, I've never seen anything like it, and it left an impression on she and her child.
It's like one of those games that you get per player from both teams. You have like 8 to 10, 8 to 12 family members that's coming. Like usually like a regular game, you got mom, dad, siblings, your immediate family that might come to your game. But this is the one that mom might bring a coworker. Mom might have a coworker that is an alum of your school that's just coming back out to see you play. But, tailgate, crazy as far as Bosco. And then, the game itself, it was like a ring of fire as far as the recruits, alumni from both teams. So it wasn't like, usually when you're the home team, usually got just your alumni on the sideline. Bergen had their alumni on their sideline. It's packed. But, the atmosphere was like, one of those Friday Night Lights type of situation. And I love that game always at Bosco. It just feels so different compared to when it's at Bergen. It's definitely two different game atmosphere because Bosco has a little bit more space than Bergen Catholic. But, the energy before the game started, the Bergen student section, like one of my favorite parts during like pregame with the Catholic schools when they say pray for us, like when they do they chant. Bergen's loud. Bosco's not the same energy, but the players had other ideas for Bosco where, Bosco did get out to a hot start, meaning they got out to a 14-0 lead, but Bergen, and the energy could have like shifted where, like you said, one big play before the half where I forgot if it was, I believe Busso, I think he called the post route, and I see Bosco's safety back there. It looked like he's about to have a for sure pick, but he didn't go high point it, and like the kid just comes right across at the last minute, right? And that drive, right? I thought literally was gonna be a pick. If they would have got that pick on the half, I think the energy just would have like definitely probably defeated Bergen a little bit. But Bergen was able to score, on that possession, and they went into half 14-6. So, as far as the game atmosphere, I thought we was going to get some more points, but, it was a defensive game just like the Prep and Joe's game in that second half for sure.
So from watching it at home, I seen them jump out 14-0, and Bosco just had so much juice. And I remember they got the ball back, and I'm like, they're about to go up 21-0. And then Bergen stopped them, and then Bergen scored. And I remember thinking to myself, what are they saying in that huddle over there? And I felt like Vito was like, hey, guys, we've been here before. Like, we comfortable here. We've been here before. And they walked Bosco down. And then I started thinking Bosco was going to fold. And, Bosco came out, and they controlled the line of scrimmage to start early. And then it's like Bergen dug their feet in and figured it out. And then we had a grudge match. In that I had said that Makai Allen had to show up in order for Bosco. I know Ultra Pinty is going to hold down the middle. And Makai finished, I think, with like 7 tackles and a strip sack in that game. And for a game where there's very little offense being played, that was huge. That was huge for them. It's just, and then I remember we're going into the fourth quarter, and Justin goes on the record for saying Bosco hasn't gotten a first down in the whole second half. Bergen held them without a first down. And when it was winning time, as soon as Justin said that, it was probably like 2 minutes left in the game. Bosco reeled off like 3 first downs in a row. And that's the difference from the team that wants it more. And I think that's what we saw this weekend. We saw that it meant more to the home teams than it did the away teams. Like, I'm not saying it didn't mean anything to the away teams. It just meant more. Like those home teams you saw, we're not going to give this to you. Yeah. Under no circumstances are you going to get this.
And don't be fooled. At one point in that game, that energy of like that walk down field, it was there. Because, you know, before the turnover on downs, you know, before Bosco closed out the game, Bergen got into the red zone, right? They had some bad penalties that didn't go, you know, in their favor, and then they end up turning over on downs. But as far as when, you know, going into that drive, because I believe the drive before that, they got the field goal because now it was 14-9. But it was starting to feel like, how you put this? It started to feel like the Joes game last year. Right? That's exactly that's exactly what it felt like. Like, okay, like you said, we've been here before. Right? There's a lot of time on the clock, right? We're gonna get enough possessions to get a chance at this, you know, just, you know, stay the course. We don't have to deviate, even up 14-6, we don't have to deviate from our game plan. We can still run the ball. We don't have to, you know, get out of character. And, you know, they stuck to what they were doing. And at one point I'm like, okay, Bosco at some point is gonna have to make a big play. And before that last drive, Bosco couldn't figure out how to get a first down. But, you know, shout out to that defense. They got the stop that they needed, which was huge, and they ended up getting an interception. And I always tell kids, you know the situation, or sometimes it's just like, all right, better safe than sorry as far as when you pick the ball off. Because I would say, you know, I'm not discrediting the kid. You know, he made a great play, he made an interception. He caught the pick, but now you like inside the 5-yard line on the 4th down instead of like batting it down or knocking it down and being like on the 15 to have some breathing room. But shout out to the Bosco O-line.
For sure.
Right? Because, you know, the word on the street is that, oh, they got 3 young guys. They got 3 young guys, right? You know, they not, you know, they don't have the experience, all right? At the end of the game, they pushed their will against Bergen Catholic, and they couldn't do nothing. And shout out to both Bosco running backs, Kasai Thomas, and
DeLuca.
Yep, Dante DeLuca. You know, for, you know, running hard and finishing the game strong, because when they got the ball, it was probably like right under maybe 5-minute mark, and they controlled that. They literally closed out the game where they, you know, there's no better feeling probably as an O-line coach to see your guys do that, where you're like, okay, my guys are finishing the game, and even with them using their timeouts, when we still got to get a first down, we was able to get the first down. So, you know, as they say, victory formation is the best play in football. I know that probably felt good and probably built a lot of confidence now in that young O-line. They're not young anymore because they just literally closed out a team that was ranked as high as number 9 in the country. And as far as, you know, the Bosco team, I know we'll get into rankings and stuff. I do believe Bosco deserves probably to be in maybe the top 25 of America. But that's just my opinion.
Okay. All right, Bosco, shout out to you. Shout out to Coach Sabella and Coach Cody High. What's the defensive?
No. Shout out to Ike Garrow.
Well, that's what I was.
That's who won that game and brought that game home for them. And, you know, as a Bosco alum, I remember watching him run around, play linebacker for Bosco. You know, and he was Mr. Bosco. And just to see him now, like as, you know, a man, I'm sure he probably has a family leading that team, and it's like I watched him and how he celebrated as they broke Bergen's streak. And I know it meant a lot to him because he's just not only a coach, like I'm part of this. I did this too, you know? So, like, shout out to
and I think Coach in the 2020s, I think Bosco's the only team to beat in Jersey that actually beat.
I was going to say, they were the last people to beat them
so
too, right?
2022, they beat them at Bergen. So, you know, this is what a rivalry is about.
Yeah.
Right? You know, I guess you could throw the national rankings and all that stuff out the window. You know, Ohio State won a natty last year, but who did they lose to? Michigan. But so we learned everyone learns a lot about this type of rivalry where the adrenaline, is definitely different for sure.
Yeah, and everybody always says like, "Oh, this, that, and other. Why do you pick Bergen?" And we go say somebody got to knock
Shout out to the New York Giants players showing up to. They showed up to the game as well. I saw Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson. Of course they came out to see and come support Carson, but that's just the type of game the Bergen Bosco. I remember when I was there, just being at Bosco. I remember like CeCe Sabathia. This is like when CeCe's like basically like in this this is actually before his son. I'm talking about when I was in school. His son's a little younger than me, but it's just that type of atmosphere, that game. You just never know who's going to be there for sure.
But like as you were saying, like we had to roll with Bergen until somebody beat him.
Absolutely.
And that's just it. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a knock to Bosco. Like, we clearly all thought that Bosco could compete with them and possibly beat them. We did.
We said
absolutely.
It.
We've also thought that other teams could do it, but nobody's done it, right? So when you're betting, you got to hedge your bets. You go with the safe bet, right? What does history tell us? James Buster Douglas could beat Mike Tyson. We just haven't seen it before, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to Bosco. Y'all did it.
Shout out to Bosco. And so, game of the week. Oh, so players of the week. Players of the week. Who are we choosing?
All right, our offensive player of the week is going to be Kobe St. Hilaire from New Milford High School. 19 carries, 224 yards, 4 TDs. They had a 28-21 win versus Hawthorne High School. And our defensive player of the week is going to be Logan Nagel from DePaul High School, the Pitt commit. 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 11 tackles, and 1 forced fumble in a competitive game versus Paramus Catholic.
I just want to shout out some guys that, like I saw while I was at the game. Shout out to Tyler Bell. He looks like a senior. He looks like he believes. He looks like a hell of a leader for his team. I wanted to shout him out. A welcome to the party for Cam Amy. For Joes, there's number 44 on the defensive end. I think he might have had 2 or 3 sacks that game. Kid having a hell of a season. Obviously Taj Gray went crazy for that, but he's not so much of a new face or a new name. Shout out to Kasai Thomas over at Bosco. He came in and he gave them what they needed at that point, right? And helped put that game away.
I'm excited to see him play some more. He's only a sophomore, by the way.
Yeah. And then we had, this was the first week where kids that had to sit because of transfer were eligible. I know Gabriel Miles is back for Passaic County Tech. He made his presence felt against Ridgewood in in the win against Ridgewood. Passaic pulled that off. Passaic County Tech pulled that off 28-14. There's a good chance that they go on the streak now that he's active and, ready to go again.
Congratulations to the players of the week. And tune in for part 2 for now our top 20 and next week's predictions.